live. Alright, we're getting an early start today because I kind of want to finish this book by the end of the weekend. We probably won't, but I want to knock a lot of it out. So, this is chapter 18, titled The Hunt. And we just ended the baseball scene, which was not very exciting at all. So, here we go. The Hunt, when you are done. Is it a preemptive Twilight Advil? Yeah. They emerged one by one from the forest edge, ranging a dozen meters apart. The first male into the clearing fell back immediately, allowing the other male to take the front. I just imagine it's with such disdain because it's Stephanie Meyer. Yeah. We've already had so many parts where she's like, well, a man. I'm still a man, Bella. I immediately lost my spot. Allowing the other male to take the front, orienting himself around the tall, dark-haired man in a manner that clearly displayed who led the pack. The third was a femoid, a woman from this distance. All I could see of her was that her hair was a startling shade of red.
Victoria!
It is. Yeah, it's the bad guys. Bad guys. They closed ranks before they continued cautiously towards Edward's family, exhibiting the natural respect of a troop of predators as it encounters a large, unfamiliar group of its own kind.
We're not entirely where we are.
I recapped.
We watched Eclipse last night. I was like, oh, the pack, they're meeting Sam.
No, we're way back in Twilight. Yeah, we're back in the... What should really be like chapter 4?
Yeah.
As they approached, I could see how different they were from the Cullens. Their walk was cat-like, a gait that seemed constantly on edge of shifting into a crouch. They dressed in the ordinary gear of backpackers, jeans and casual button-down shirts and heavy weatherproof fabrics. The clothes were frayed, though, with wear, and they were barefoot. Both men had cropped hair, but the woman's brilliant orange hair was filled with leaves and debris from the woods. Their sharp eyes carefully took in the more polished urbane stance of Carlyle, who, flanked by Emmett and Jasper, stepped guardedly forward to meet them. Without any seeming communication between them, they each straightened into a more casual, erect bearing. The man in front was easily the most beautiful. His skin olive-toned beneath the typical pallor, his hair a glossy black. He was of medium build, hard-muscled, of course, but nothing next to Emmett's brawn. He smiled an easy smile, exposing a flash of gleaming white teeth. The woman was wilder, her eyes shifting relentlessly between the men facing her and the loose grouping around me. Her chaotic hair quivered in the slight breeze. Her posture was distinctly feline. The second male hovered unobtrusively behind them, slighter than the leader, his light brown hair and regular features both nondescript. His eyes, though completely still, somehow seemed the most vigilant. Their eyes were different, too. Not the gold or black I'd come to expect, but a deep burgundy color that was disturbing and sinister. The dark-haired man, still smiling, stepped towards Carlyle. "We thought we heard a game," he said in a relaxed voice with the slightest of French accents. I can't do a French accent.
Yeah, you may have heard a game, but I don't think you heard an invitation. Yeah.
"I'm Laurent. These are Victoria and James." He gestured with the vampires beside him. "I'm Carlyle. This is my family, Emmett and Jasper, Rosalie, Esme, Alice, Edward, and Bella." He pointed us out in groups, deliberately not calling attention to us individuals. I felt a shock when he said my name. "Do you have room for a few more players?" Laurent asked sociably.
No.
Carlyle matched Laurent's friendly tone. "Actually, we were just finishing up. But we'd certainly be interested another time. Are you planning to stay in the area for long?" "We're headed north, in fact, but we were curious to see who was in the neighborhood. We haven't run into any company in a long time." "No, this region is usually empty except for us and the occasional visitor like yourselves." The tense atmosphere had slowly subsided into a casual conversation. I guessed that Jasper was using his peculiar gift to control the situation. "What's your hunting range?" Laurent casually inquired. Carlyle ignored the assumption behind the inquiry. "The Olympic range here, up and down the coast ranges on occasion. We keep a permanent residence nearby. There's another permanent settlement like ours up near Denali." Laurent rocked back on his heels slightly. "Permanent? How do you manage that?" There was honest curiosity in his voice. Why don't you come back to our home with us and we can talk more comfortably? Carlyle invited. It's a rather long story. James and Victoria exchanged a surprised look at the mention of the word home, but Laurent controlled his expression better. That sounds very interesting, and welcome. His smile was genial. We've been on the hunt all the way down from Ontario, and we haven't had a chance to clean up in quite some time. His eyes moved appreciatively over Carlyle's refined appearance.
You're stanky.
Please don't take offense, but we'd appreciate it if you'd refrain from hunting in this immediate area. We have to stay inconspicuous. You understand, Carlyle explained. Of course, Laurent nodded. We certainly won't encroach on your territory. We just ate outside of Seattle anyway. He laughed and a shiver ran up my spine. We'll show you the way if you'd like to run with us. Emmett and Alice, you can go with Edward and Bella to get the jeeps. He casually added. 3 things seemed to happen simultaneously while Carlyle was speaking. My hair ruffled with the light breeze, Edward stiffened, and the second male, James, suddenly whipped his head around, scrutinizing me with his nostrils flaring. I don't understand why they put her hair down to hide her scent. Because her hair is the most, floral-smelling part of her.
Well, because her neck, though. They want to hide her neck. Because I guess her neck is stanky to vampires.
I guess. It just seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe we just shouldn't have brought Bella if we knew that vampires were in the area.
What if, all the vampires were sweaty from playing the game, so they all just quickly rubbed themselves all over Bella?
Yeah, that'd be a good
Just,
idea.
rubbed their armpits all over Bella's body. Given she probably would have immediately orgasmed.
Yeah.
A swift rigidity fell on all of them as James lurched one step forward into my crotch. Into my crotch. I got it on the brain. Edward bared his teeth, crouching in defense, a feral snarl ripping from his throat. It was nothing like the playful sounds I'd heard from them this morning. It was the single most menacing thing I'd ever heard, and chills ran from the crown of my head to the back of my heels. What's this? Laurent exclaimed in open surprise. Neither James nor Edward relaxed their aggressive poses. James faintly slighted to the side, and Edward shifted in response. She's with us. Carlyle's firm rebuff was directed towards James. Laurent seemed to catch any scent less powerful than James, but awareness now dawned his face. You brought a snack? He asked, his expression incredulous as he took an involuntary step forward. Edward snarled even more ferociously, harshly. His lips were curling high above his glistening bared teeth. Laurent stepped back again. I said she's with us, Carlyle corrected in a hard voice. But she's human, Laurent protested. The words were not at all aggressive, merely astounded. Yes, Emmett was very much in evidence at Carlyle's side. His eyes on James slowly straightening out of his crouch. But his eyes never left mine, his nostrils still wide. Edward stayed tense like a lion in front of me. When Laurent spoke, his tone was soothing, trying to diffuse the sudden hostility. It appears we have a lot to learn about each other. Indeed. Carlyle's voice was still cool. But we'd like to accept your invitation all the same. His eyes flicked towards me and back to Carlyle. And, of course, we will not harm the human girl. We won't hunt in your range, as I said. James glanced in disbelief and aggravation at Laurent and exchanged another brief look with Victoria, whose eyes still flickered edgily from face to face. Carlyle measured Laurent's open expression for a moment before he spoke. We'll show you the way. Jasper, Rosalie, Esme, he called. They gathered together, blocking me from view as they converged. Alice was instantly at my side, and Emmett fell back slowly. His eyes locked on James as he backed towards us. What?
She's like the Pope.
Yeah. Let's go, Bella. Edward's voice was low and bleak. This whole time I'd been rooted in place, terrified into absolute immobility. Edward had to grip my elbow and pull sharply to break my trance. Alice and Emmett were close behind us, hiding me. I stumbled alongside Edward, still stunned with fear. I couldn't hear if the main group had left yet. Edward's impatience was almost tangible as we moved at human speed to the forest edge. Once we were into the trees, Edward slung me over his back without breaking stride. I gripped as tightly as possible as he took off, the others close on his heels. I kept my head down, but my eyes wide with fright would not close. They plunged through the now black forest like wraiths. The sense of exhilaration that usually seemed to possess Edward as he ran was completely absent, replaced by a fury that consumed him, and drove him still faster. Even with me on his back, the others trailed behind us. We reached the jeep in an impossibly short time, and Edward barely slowed as he flung me into the back seat.
Where was that when he was like, there's no time now with her
Yeah,
back?
there just absolutely was time.
Just get mad, Edward.
Strap her in,
Hard.
he ordered Emmett, who slid in beside me. Alice was already in the front seat, and Edward was starting the engine. It roared to life, and we swerved backwards, spinning around to face the winding road. Edward was growling something too fast for me to understand, but it sounded like a string of profanities. The jolting trip was much worse this time, and the darkness only made it more frightening. Emmett and Alice both glared out the side windows. We hit the main road, and though our speed increased, I could see much better where we were going, and we were heading south, away from Forks.
Is a car faster than they can run?
He said it is if they have to carry her. But I feel like that is constantly contradicted.
Yeah.
And so... where are we going? I asked. No one answered. No one even looked at me. Damn it, Edward, where are you taking me? We have to get you far away from here. Far away,
Here
now.
it comes.
He didn't look back, his eyes on the road. The speedometer read 105 miles an hour. Turn around, you have to take me home, I shouted, and I struggled with the stupid harness tearing at the straps. Emmett, Edward said grimly, and Emmett secured my hands in his steely grasp. No, Edward, you can't do this. I have to, Bella, be quiet. I won't, you have to take me back. Charlie will call the FBI. They'll be all over your family.
What?
Carlisle and Esme, they'll have to hide forever. Calm down, Bella. His voice was cold. We've been there before.
Charlie would likely just call the Cullens and
Yeah.
then be like, well, where's my daughter? He would probably wait the standard 24 hours.
Yeah.
And just assume that you would fuck off with your boyfriend and yell at you tomorrow.
Not over me, you don't. You're not ruining everything over me. I struggled violently with total futility. Alice spoke for the first time. Edward, pull over. He flashed her a hard look and then sped up. Edward, let's just talk this through. You don't understand, he roared in frustration. I'd never heard his voice so low. It was deafening in the confines of the Jeep. The speedometer neared 115. He's a tracker, Alice. Did you see that? He's a tracker. I felt Emmett stiffen next to me, and I wondered at his reaction to the word. It meant something more to the three of them than it did to me. I wanted to understand, but there was no opening for me to ask.
It's
Pull...
probably his power.
Yeah. Pull over, Edward! Alice's tone was reasonable, but there was a ring of authority in it that I'd never heard before. The speedometer inched past 120. Do it, Edward! Listen to me, Alice. I saw his mind. Tracking is his passion, his obsession, and he wants her, Alice. Her specifically, and he's going to begin the hunt tonight. He doesn't know where he interrupted her. How long do you think it will take him to cross her scent in town? His plane was already set before the words were out of Lauren's mouth. I gasped, knowing where my scent would lead. Charlie, you can't leave him there. You can't leave him, I thrashed against the harness. She's right, Alice said. The car slowed slightly. Let's just look at our options for a minute, Alice coaxed. The car slowed again, more noticeably, and then suddenly we screeched to a stop on the shoulder of the highway. I flew against the harness and then slammed back into the seat. There are no options, Edward hissed. I'm not leaving Charlie, I yelled. He ignored me completely. We have to take her back, Emmett finally spoke. No, Edward was absolute.
If you don't take her back, Emmett is just going to lift her and
Yeah.
take her back. Like, he's not a pussy like you, he can carry her.
He's no match for us, Edward. He won't be able to touch her. He'll wait. Emmett smiled. I can wait, too. Yeah, I don't understand why we're not just killing these people.
I don't know.
Like-
because, like, there's no treaty against not killing the vampires.
And there's
if they're
what?
coming in being aggressive.
Yeah,
kill 'em.
and there's like 8 of them. And like Lauren doesn't even want to fight. He'll leave.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, and you could get rid of Victoria now and save a whole lot of
I mean,
people
Eclipse
later.
would just be done.
Yeah. And, like,
I mean, you
don't
could just kill
understand.
James now, and Victoria would probably run off, and you could still do Eclipse. There's no reason that they just left him.
And I also don't know how going back and doing the stupid shit they're about to do is supposed to save Charlie, because Charlie's still there.
Well, because, like, James listens, and that's why Bella has to make it convincing that she's leaving.
Yeah, but, like, then he fucking kidnaps her mom or
That's
whatever.
true.
He could literally just actually take Charlie and kill him.
Well, maybe the book will explain it more. I don't remember. I can wait too, Emmett smiled. You didn't see. You don't understand. Once he commits to a hunt, he's unshakable. We'd have to kill him. Emmett didn't seem upset. That is an option. Thank you, Emmett. And the female. She's with him. If it turns into a fight, the leader will go with them too.
The femoid.
The femoid. There are enough of us. There's another option, Alice said quietly. Edward turned on her in fury, his voice a blistering snarl. There is no other option!
Alice can literally see the future. How about you calm the fuck down?
Emmett and I both stared at him in shock, but Alice seemed unsurprised. The silence lasted for a long minute as Edward and Alice stared each other down. Does anybody want to hear my plan? I broke. No, Edward growled. Alice glared at him, finally provoked. Listen, you take me back. No, Edward interrupted. I glared at him and continued. You take me back. I tell my dad I want to go home to Phoenix. I pack my bags. We wait till this tracker is watching, and then we run. He'll follow us and leave Charlie alone. Charlie won't call the FBI on your family. Then you can take me any damn place you want.
Charlie will not call the FBI. He doesn't have a direct line to the FBI.
He's in cahoots. They stared at me, stunned. It's not a bad idea, I guess. Emmett's surprise was definitely an insult. It might work, and we simply can't leave her father unprotected, Alice added. Everyone looked at Edward. It's too dangerous. I don't want him within 100 miles of her. Emmett was supremely confident. Edward, he's not getting through us. Alice thought for a moment. I don't see him attacking. He'll try to wait for us to leave her alone. It won't take that long for him to realize that's not going to happen. I demand that you take me home. I tried to sound firm.
Barrel roll out of the car.
Tuck and roll! It's like 120 miles an hour. Bella just splatters on the highway.
It'll make him fucking stop, won't it?
Edward pressed his fingers to his temples and squeezed his eyes shut. You're driving, Edward. Oh no, I think they pulled over. Please, I said in a much smaller voice.
I would just get out of the car. I'd be like, you are exhausting. And I would leave.
He didn't look up when he spoke. His voice sounded worn. You're leaving tonight, whether the track sees you or not. You tell Charlie you can't stand another minute in Forks. Tell him whatever story works. Pack the first thing your hands touch and then get in the truck. I don't care what he says to you. You have 15 minutes, do you hear me? 15 minutes from the time you cross the doorstep. The Jeep rumbled to life and he spun us around and the tires squealing. The needle on the speedometer started to race up the dial. Emmett, I asked, looking pointedly at my hands. Oh, sorry. He let me loose. A few minutes passed in silence, other than the roar of the engine.
Why was Emmett holding her hand?
He was restraining her.
Oh.
Yeah. Then Edward spoke again. This is how it's going to happen. When we get to the house, if the tracker is not there, I will walk her to the door. She has 15 minutes. He glared at me in the rearview mirror. Emmett, you take the outside of the house. Alice, you get in the truck. I'll be inside as long as she is. After she's out, you two take the Jeep home and tell Carlisle. No way, Emmett broke in. I'm with you. Think it through, Emmett. I don't know how long I'm going to be gone. Until we know how far this is going to go, I'm with you, Edward sighed. If the tracker is there, we keep driving. We're going to make it there before him, Alice said confidently. Edward seemed to accept that. Whatever his problem with Alice was, he didn't doubt her now. What are we going to do with the Jeep, she asked. His voice had a hard edge. You're driving it home. No, I'm not, she said calmly. The unintelligible stream of profanity started again. We can't all fit in my truck, I whispered. Edward didn't appear to hear me. I think you should let me go alone, I said even more quietly. He heard that. Bella, please just do it my way, just this one time, he said between clenched teeth.
It's your way. She's like fucking Burger King, always serving it up your way, Edward.
Listen, Charlie's not an imbecile, I protested. If you're not in town tomorrow, he's going to be suspicious. That's irrelevant. We'll make sure he's safe, and that's all that matters. Then what about this tracker? He saw the way you acted tonight. He's going to think you're with me wherever you are. Emmett looked at me insultingly, surprised again. Edward, I think she's right. Yeah, she is, Alice agreed. I can't do that. Edward's voice was icy. Emmett should stay too, I continued. He definitely got an eye full of Emmett. What? Emmett turned on me. You'll get a better crack at him if you stay, Alice agreed. Edward stared at her incredulously. You think I should let her go alone? Of course not, Alice said. Jasper and I will take her. I can't do that, Edward repeated, but this time there was a trace of defeat in his voice. The logic was starting to work on him. I tried to be persuasive. Hang out here for a week. I saw his expression in the mirror and amended. A few days? Let Charlie see you haven't kidnapped me, and lead this James on a wild goose chase. Make sure he's completely off my trail. Then come and meet me. Take a roundabout route, of course, and then Jasper and Alice can go home. I could see him beginning to consider it. Meet you where? Phoenix, of course. No, he'll hear that's where you're going, he said impatiently. And you'll make it look like a ruse, obviously. He'll know that we'll know he's listening. He'll never believe I'm actually going where I'm say I'm going. She's kind of diabolical, Emmett chuckled. And if that doesn't work? There are 7 million people in Phoenix, I informed him. It's not that hard to find a phone book. I won't go home. Oh? He inquired in a dangerous note in his voice. I'm quite old enough to get my own place. Edward will be with her, Alice reminded him. What are you going to do in Phoenix? He asked her scathingly. We'll stay indoors, Alice said. I kind of like it. Emmett was thinking about cornering James, no doubt.
What is anyone going to do in Phoenix?
They're just gonna...
They're just gonna be in hiding.
Yeah.
You just don't have to actually go to Phoenix.
Shut up, Emmett. Look, if we try to take him down while he's still around, there's a much better chance that someone will get hurt. She'll get hurt, or you will, trying to protect her. Now, if we get him alone, he trailed off with a slow smile. I was right. The Jeep was crawling slowly along as we drove into town. Despite my brave talk, I could feel the hairs on my arms standing up. I thought about Charlie alone in the house and tried to be courageous. Bella. Edward's voice was very soft. And Alice and Emmett looked out their windows. If you let anything happen to yourself, anything at all, I'm holding you responsible. Do you understand?
He's holding Bella responsible?
If she gets hurt.
Well, okay. What are you gonna do? If she dies, are you gonna, kill her again, you stupid bitch?
Yeah, I gulped. He turned to Alice.
Get mad at her? Oh, that's never happened before.
Can Jasper handle this? Give him credit, Edward. He's been doing very well, all things considered. Can you handle this? He asked. And graceful little Alice pulled back her lips in a horrific grimace and let loose a guttural snarl that had me cowering against my seat. Edward smiled at her. But keep your opinions to yourself, he muttered suddenly. That is the end of chapter 18. So we're not quite to break Charlie's heart chapter. That's next. In fact, the first line of the next chapter is Charlie is waiting up for me all night with all the lights on.
Oh, Charlie is a darling. I would die for that man.